How's it going, people? Simon Slabby here, and this is a Runescape Lore, and we're going to be carrying on with the Legend of Arrav. And this is part 2. I hope you all enjoy. So when we last left off, Arrav had just had a dream wherein Zamoragul had a little conversation with him, at which point the elders of the tribe, well, they were quite obviously troubled and decided that Arrav needed to leave, but to do so they needed to give him a quest. And this quest was for a shield, which the eldest of the elders apparently received his memory from a dream, which conveniently is also where Zamoragul happened to contact Arrav, which started this entire event. So let's carry on with the story for a bit. An encounter most strange. So it came to pass that the elders of Avarocca told Arrav of this shield, and that it would be necessary for the protection of the town, and Arrav agreed with this, and began to make ready his equipment for this quest. Along with the sword he had been given while training as a child, he brought enough bread and cooked meat to last him 7 days in the lands outside of Avarocca, where men feared to venture. He set out of the confines of the town and into the lands beyond. Arrav had not travelled far west when he came upon a strange house, though. It was surrounded by mist. Wondering what kind of being would abide in such a place, yet unafraid, he entered the house, and it was there that he met 3 men inside, sitting, arguing at a table. The argument was a passionate one, and they took no notice of Arrav as he entered their house. The language they spoke was strange and unfamiliar, yet somehow he could understand what they were arguing about, and it seemed to be about the ownership of the house they were standing in. The argument did not make much sense to him, but the first man was apparently complaining how the others had crept in while he was asleep, and that they had stolen the house he had made for himself. Arrav wondered what the man meant by the others, but noticed a number of smaller figures, almost too small to notice, huddled around the shadows of the table chittering to each other, almost below his hearing. The noises and speech of the place concerned Arrav, and he decided to continue on his way, leaving this strange abode behind him, for the things he had seen did trouble him greatly. Arrav then, he headed west once more, with the sounds of argument continuing behind him until he could hear them no longer. A meeting with the Imcando. The journey continued for many miles as Arrav wandered through this countryside, seeking those who knew of the shield he sought. Across a mighty river that flowed seemingly entirely from the north to the south, as far as he could see, and close to a towering and ice-bound mountain. At the foot of this icy peak, Arrav did encounter a race he had never seen before. They looked like men, yet were far shorter, and they seemed to be unafraid of Arrav as he approached. He spoke to them of the shield that he sought, and although they denied any knowledge of such an item, he could see in their eyes a guardedness that made him doubt the truth of their claims. Arrav stood tall and asked them who they were, and they spoke to him.
"We are of the clan Imcando, known far and wide for our skills with weaponry,"
and seemed puzzled that he had no recognition of them. Sure that the dwarves knew more of the shield he sought than they admitted, Arrav decided to stay with them and gain their trust, and perhaps learn more of the whereabouts of the shield he had pledged to find. Many moons passed as Arrav stayed amongst the dwarves, and eventually the leader of the Imcando summoned Arrav to him.
"Your ways are strange to us, Arrav of Avarocca, yet we see the honour in which you carry yourself. When first you came amongst us, you spoke of a mighty shield. We know you suspect us of having knowledge of such an item, and that is why you remained here. We have offered you our hospitality, and as we have come to know you, we have seen you to be a man of honor. So speak now. Why do you search for this item? For it is one of our greatest treasures, and we cannot allow it to fall into the hands of the undeserving.
Arrav spoke of his encounter with the darkly dressed man in the land of dreams, and at a mention of the name Zamoragul, he saw a dark shadow fall across the countenance of the elder.
We know of this being who calls himself Zamoragul. For many years he has attempted to gain control of this shield, for it is a mighty artifact that will bring him great power against all races, should he gain possession of it. Long ago, we vowed that this must never happen, for we dwarves have memories of the time when gods walked this land, and do not wish to see such devastation return. Although we know you to be a man of great honor and courage, you cannot defeat Zamoragul, and we must never allow him the chance to gain control of such a powerful object. I fear that he has manipulated you, and those you obey. I must ask you to leave, as your continued presence here only serves to alert him of our settlement. I am sorry, Arrav.
Arrav's heart was filled with sadness at these words, for he had become accustomed to spending time with Imcando and learning their ways of mining and smithing. Yet, he knew the wisdom of these words. As the dwarf spoke to him, he realized why the elders of Avaroka had sent him on this quest, for their fears were the same as the Imcando's, that Arrav could bring nothing but woe and lamentations to them while staying in such a place. With a weariness in his heart, Arrav continued on his quest, for he knew that he must find the shield his elders sought, whether he had the assistance of the Imcando or not. A battle of the soul. Arrav wandered long through the fields and forests. He walked from the peaks in the west to the northern valleys, and at each town or village or camp he came to, he asked those he met of the shield in his dreams. Though the Imcando had welcomed him and told him that they held the shield, he could do nothing but hope that the shield might instead be found elsewhere. Each place he went to, he found a few who knew of the shield, and of those that would speak with him, all paled and shrank from his presence when he mentioned Zamoragul. So it was that Arrav became a wanderer, a man with no home. He cannot return, a doom upon his heels, and the name of an outcast. It was during this time that Arrav's spirits sunk low, and in his sadness he came upon a cave in which he thought might he live, away from the races that might suffer from his curse, and away from those that cast him out for his curse. There, crouched in the shadows like a hermit, he watched the grass grow, and the beasts of the field go by, oblivious to his presence. But this cave was not empty. Deep in the cave, as old as the shadows that hid it, a beast was stirring. The smell of sweat and hunger was on Arrav, and the beast that had not woken for 1,000 years flicked a single eyelid open. A silhouette against the dim light of the cave's entrance, the beast looked at Arrav as men look at cattle, as silent as sleep. It coiled itself from its slumber, remembering the power in its limbs and the fire in its soul. Arrav, oblivious, watched the world go by with misery. The beast, standing upright now, moved like darkness towards Arrav, long talons straining forward in anticipation. But the beast had no conception of Arrav's senses, nor his reflexes, nor did he sense his strength. And as it came to lay a chill hand on his shoulder, Arrav spun with the blade already in his hand. The two battled for 2 days and nights, each as strong and as fast as the other, each fighting for survival against the only worthy foe either had faced. Then, as the sun reached the horizon on the second day, Arrav's sword caught the last ray of light and blinded the beast long enough to plunge his sword deep into its chest. A hellish scream broke from the beast's throat. The echo in the cave lasted long after it had fallen. Gasping from the battle, Arrav pulled the beast into the twilight to better see its face, wiping the grime of centuries of sleep from its face. Arrav looked down at a creature so like himself, he couldn't help himself. He just wept. "I am on a wrong path," Arrav thought to himself. "Had I stayed here in this cave, I should, in the fullness of time, become this beast. All hate and rage and hunger. I have my destiny. I must confront it regardless of what the gods might throw in my path." Thus, energized, Arrav went from the cave to return to his people, knowing that though they feared his curse, they also must miss his strength. So that was the end of part 2. There's another part left, and it's probably going to be the final part. It's a fairly longish one, so yeah. I hope you all enjoyed the second part of The Legend of Arrav. The story's getting a bit more interesting now. So, until next time, people, I will catch you all later. Have a good one. Oh,